I'm also see, I told you it was gonna be silly for me. But I also have my iPad like listening, so hopefully everything will be fine.
Perfect.
So
Did you send the questions in the text or in an email?
I can send them on here actually real quick.
Either way.
Easier.
I mean, it doesn't matter. If you ask them, I'll be fine.
Well, I figure it's fine either way. Here, I'll send them in the group chat so it's easier. Because I don't.
You'll find it also runs in our family. We can talk, honey.
Well, that's what I was like. They can't cut us off at 40 minutes. What I got questions? I got everything. Now, you don't have to answer every question that's on here either. Um, because that would be silly. Oh, actually, I do have it on my computer too. I can jump it in this chat.
I thought it would be cool to have Cameron on, though, not only because he's family, but because he's current, where I'm retired, so I contract and volunteer now.
Retired, washed up. I'm just kidding. You
Sometimes
know,
I
you know I love you.
sometimes I feel that way. No, you tell me I'm not washed up because you want me to do stuff for you.
That's exactly right.
No, mom was telling me everything about like she was because she says that all the time too, which is funny. She's like, "Oh, we keep it in the business, like with family and everything, because we want to find in New Bern where she lives, like all the Parks and Rec things.
Yes.
Especially since I'm
Mm.
graduated now, I'm like, I can definitely I have more time to help out and things."
Yeah.
They were hiring for a parks director a couple years ago, and I was very interested in applying for that because that would have been a great place to live.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
wonderful. Wonderful.
No, I love it here. Okay. All right. Well, Cameron, if you want, I'll ask you a lot of the questions too, since it's like you're in
It's a
it.
job. He's in it.
So basically, if you want to go and talk about your current role and like how long you've been doing things and all that,
Yes, I'm sorry,
you're fine.
Mom. Special Olympics is in the middle of. I'm gonna minimize this because their frustrations are part of our daily lives too. So, um,
I'm
ask your question again. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Could you share like your current role and how long you've been in the sports industry, the Parks and Rec, things like that?
Yes, yeah, for sure. So I graduated in 2015 with my undergrad from Western Kentucky, and I was a double major in sports management and then recreation administration. They're two separate programs here. Um, and so graduated, and I was fortunate enough to walk into my first full-time job, like pretty much right upon graduation. So January of 2016, I started working in what was the special populations division, which is now adaptive recreation. So it's focused on people with disabilities. And so I was in that role for about 7.5 years. And then I moved into the role I'm currently in, which I'm recreation manager for our department. And so I've been with the city. In January. It'll be 10 years that I've worked for the city of Bowling Green. And so that's the role that I'm in now. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Dang.
So it's pretty funny because I worked for 29 and a half, 30 years at Louisville Metro Parks and Recreation, and I was hired to run the adaptive program. And then I got promoted to an administrator. And when I became an administrator, I was over seniors division, cultural arts, aquatics, the adapted program, and about 9 community centers. And so Cameron is now over the therapeutic adaptive program, community centers, and aquatics. I said, dude, can you not find a unique title? You don't have to take mine. So it's pretty funny the way we go back and forth at each other with it. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. That's super cool. So
It is pretty cool.
the next question is kind of what led you into this career path. So I feel like family also probably did that. I feel like that's an easy one.
I
For
think
sure.
we both knew. I mean, I knew when I was like 4 or 5 what I was going to do.
I, I, so I mean, yes and no. because I went to Western and really what my goal, I wanted to be a college athletic director.
Okay.
Um, I was a track athlete at WKU. I did shot put and discus and stuff. And so I wanted to work in college athletics, but I just, for a lot of different reasons, wound up back at Parks and Rec in a city setting, local government, public service type setting, which is exactly what, mom and papa did. So, um, yeah, I think for a lot of reasons, I just kind of fell back into Parks and Rec.
And like I said, I always knew. I just knew what I wanted to do because dad did it, mom did it, dad taught it, and I just grew up around it, and I always knew that Parks and Rec was what I wanted to do. Now, our my parents taught us and introduced us to therapeutic rec through Special Olympics when I was like 9 years old. And so the local program was ran by a lady that taught with my father. And so we always volunteered and worked with Special Olympics. So I also knew at a very young age that I wanted to work with people with disabilities.
That's
And that's my passion. Parks and Rec, I love, but my passion is I always wanted to keep my toe involved in therapeutic rec. I never would give that up as I got promoted. It was like, no, that's what I have to do. And I'm in my 21st year teaching at the University of Louisville, and I teach adaptive sports and recreation. So it's always been my passion for that.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the foundation for everything that we do. I mean, my aspirations are to be a director, of a department, but I think the adaptive piece, and accessibility and inclusivity and people with disabilities will kind of always be, I think, the foundation of everything that we do. So it's definitely the root of our passion for sure.
I
And
love
that'll be cool though, is Cameron, because I know you will move up, whether it's Bowling Green or wherever, and be a director. And it's rare to find a lot of directors that have that experience in working with people with disabilities. So a lot of departments aren't doing fully what they could be doing for people with disabilities just because they don't know. It's rare to have, like in Kentucky, when we were at our peak in the state, we had what, three major therapeutic rec programs at a parks and recreation department. And then unfortunately, when I retired, that pretty much disbanded. Bowling Green has theirs and Lexington has theirs. So a lot of departments don't have TR programs. And so a lot of directors don't know that part and unfortunately could be doing a lot more for accessible programming. I think they do pretty good with the accessibility of a facility or a playground or something. But as far as programming, it's not that strong, at least in our state. So having Cameron to have that background, I think will be really cool to ensure that that programmatic part is accessible, which is so important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay. I love that. I love that. That's so cool. Um, so with your typical workday now, I know that you are looking to be a director, but with everything you do now, could you explain like what a typical day looks like and your main responsibilities?
Yeah, so let's see. Oh gosh, no day is the same. But my job role, essentially what I'm over as rec manager is I oversee our community centers. So we have a couple different community centers, and I really like to sum those up as, youth programming, is kind of what that can be summed up as. So after school, throughout the year, summer camp, of course, in the summer, any sort of like youth sports, as far as biddy ball goes. We have an athletics division that has its own sport and wellness manager that oversees like youth sports and adult sports. But like biddy ball or, a kickball program for youth, just anything like that that exists within the function of a community center, I oversee. And then I oversee our adaptive recreation program, of course, where I started special events, which is a really fun one for me. So like right now, of course, everything's kind of seasonal, but Friday, like we have our big lights up event for Christmas. And so I help put on Santa's Village and Circus Square Park and try to do things like that, or Harvest Fest in the fall, or Sweethearts Challenge for Valentine's Day, or Bunny Hop Trail for Easter, just different events like that, community wide special events. And then I also oversee aquatics. So we have an aquatic center, a water park that I manage and oversee in the summer. And so my role with that includes, hiring all of our seasonal staff, lifeguards, concessions, admissions, summer camp counselors, all of those things. So I oversee, um, really in essence, it's seven full-time staff, and then probably close to like 200 seasonals in the summers. And so that's my role in a nutshell. And then day to day, I mean, every day is different, but just to give you an example, right now, like I said, I'm getting ready for Christmas stuff on Friday. We're in the middle of doing like a master plan for our aquatic center, so I'm kind of overseeing that. Um, Random projects, like we had a meeting on Monday about an ADA task force that we're starting for the city, to kind of attack different things. Um, we're even things as random as Public Works is putting a roundabout right outside our park that has the water park. So I'm designing a sign for that. I mean, there's just random things like that that I have to be a part of from a project perspective. But then it's programming, so with our youth programs, of course, I have staff that are directly overseeing after school summer camps, but then I'll create programs like our Young Neighbors Academy and do some like youth leadership stuff, or um, helping guide the direction of all of those areas, and then empowering, I guess, the staff to do the work and kind of lead the areas. But um, yeah, every day is different. So
No, it sounds like with everything you have in like the seasons, that does sound like everything.
but it's cool. It's a lot of fun though. So
Well, that's what I think that's what makes our profession so much fun because you don't get caught up in mundane.
Yeah.
Every day is something different and every day is something exciting. And I think Cameron's in kind of the same boat that I was when I worked for the city was they were very open to if you have an idea of a program, let's give it a try. If we don't have a budget for it, then let's find a grant or come up with a budget. And that's what's cool. So if there's trending stuff or if you see a need for something, you can work and implement a program to meet that need. And it's cool that every day is different.
Yeah.
I used to joke all the time and say we're kind of like the guy who like slaps on a magnet that says today I do windows, today I do the roof. It's like you're doing something different all the time and that's what makes it so fun. Or if you see a program and you're like, "Oh, wonder if we could do that." Then you do that. And one week you're working on a book club with people and the next week you're bringing in 3,000 people to do a national wheelchair basketball championship, and it's just really cool that there's so much variety and
Yeah.
that you don't get bored with your job, and that makes it nice.
I love
for
that.
sure.
How does the budgeting, like going in and being like, we want to budget or like make a program, how does that work? Like some version, because I'm sure it's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah, everything for us, like, because we're in municipal, I guess the easiest way to describe it is obviously from a because we're about to start, budget season. Our fiscal year goes from July 1 to June 30th. And so you're really kind of prepping the budget starting in January. And so the way it works for the city is, of course, we're just one department. So we're Parks and Rec, and then there's Public Works, Police, Fire, our law department, IT, Neighborhood and Community Services, um, Finance. So there's all these other departments that are also vying for the same pot of money.
Right.
And that pot of money is in general developed by, taxes. So occupational tax and things like that kind of generate the overall city budget. I think I'm going to say this wrong, but I think for like the city of Bowling Green, it's like, I don't know, 185 million or something like that is the total budget. Parks ends up with probably just over like, or I think 100, I said 185. I wish. I think it's like 100. 110 maybe. We end up with a little over 10 million in our budget overall. And then within parks, we have all these other divisions. So there's parks maintenance, there's our cemeteries, there's athletics, there's recreation division, aquatics, underneath me, community centers, parks admin. So there's landscape, golf. So there's all these divisions that then are vying for that $10 million pot of money.
Yeah.
And so from a budgeting perspective, once we kind of start in January, we as managers kind of start to develop like, and really throughout the year, what are our goals for the year? What have we accomplished? What programs do we continue? We may rinse and repeat some of those things as far as money goes, or we may make adjustments due to like new programs that we want to start, or new projects, or new facilities, or different things like that. We kind of gather all those as our parks team, and then our director will, kind of meet with the budget team, and then the budget team, who's usually going to be like the city manager, the CFO, the assistant city manager. They're going to take all those, presentations and recommendations and make the budget. And so some things get approved, some things don't get approved. There's a whole capital improvement project budget that is separate from the budget that we have as part of like the general fund. And those are projects like new playgrounds, new gymnasiums, anything of that nature, that is a bigger ticket item. I want to say this year it was like $13 million that we got like in CIPs. I may be misquoting that, but either way, it's a different figure than the other budget. But it's all about, us as a department kind of prioritizing things. A lot of times though, like from a programming perspective, we're going to try to do the program even if we don't have the funding for it. So we try to find ways to do it without the funding. So it might be that we secure funding in another way, like grants,
Okay.
that allow us to do something, or it might just be that we use what we got to still offer a program or an experience.
Are
So
you able to, I don't know, like everything, but like are you able to ask like the community and be like, hey, like here's what we're doing for this? Like, would you be able to ask for that?
as far as like donations and things,
Yeah,
or
that's
like fundraising, yeah, yeah. You're a little limited as government, but that's why a lot of entities like ours start like nonprofits that then allow them to kind of funnel some of that money through a like 501(c)(3). So Mom in Louisville, they had a foundation that's now since become like its own functioning nonprofit.
Mhm.
But we have the Better BGKY, which started internally just as a way for us to take donations to support what we're doing. And so, yeah, I mean, we can get sponsorships, we can do all these different things. So there's a lot of alternative sources of funding, and whatnot. But it just kind of depends on the project, the goal. Is it, something that can wait? I'm definitely, I'm an alternative source of funding type of person.
yeah,
And so I would rather not get a no. I would rather, find a way to do it. So if I'm told no, then I'm probably going to try to find a way to still do it. Even if I don't have a problem at all taking our local hospital and throwing their name on a spray ground if they give me a check for $350,000. I mean, so
right.
there's definitely ways to do it, if the budget doesn't support it. So.
Partnerships are huge too, because I know that I spend a lot of time, I would work a lot with nonprofit agencies like our local Paralyzed Veterans Group. That's a nonprofit agency, and say, look, I need new weight equipment that's accessible in this center. And they're like, well, we can write the grant to National PVA or National VA and put it in your facility, and we can do joint programs. Or, we're writing a grant with this group, and we can put into it that we're going to program with you guys, and get stuff that way, because most of the budgets, fortunately and unfortunately, that are with a city with a department like that, the highest part of it is going for staffing and either capital projects. In Louisville, we never got a whole lot of money for like maintenance and upgrades and renovations to facilities. It was very hard for us to get. Bowling Green their political people and administrative are very supportive of Parks and Rec. And I guess we have so many people to share the pie with that, it was difficult for us to get. But in doing those partnerships and saying, we can do these three clinics in this tournament if we had this amount of money, and I could partner with a nonprofit agency and them write the grant. That's how we got Cameron started with actually some of his wheelchairs for basketball and tennis. And we wrote a grant across the state through one of our local rehab hospitals here in Louisville that happens to be like number 3 in the country for rehab, and wrote a grant through their foundation. And then what did you get, Cameron? I forgot. Like, how much money was it? 30, $40,000 for
Yeah, from
sports
EPA over
equipment?
like 3 years.
Yeah. And so we were able to buy equipment because I can honestly say in the 30 years that I worked at Parks and Recreation never budgeted any money at all for me to have accessible equipment. They would buy like a goal ball set that was $400, or basketballs or whatever. But as far as wheelchair basketball chairs, tennis chairs, any of that equipment, they didn't buy any. And so we partnered with people so that we could get them and have them at the facility. We even partnered with National Wheelchair Basketball Association because they came in for 9 years and did the national tournament. And they were shipping chairs from Colorado to do some of their events at that tournament. And I said, why don't you just buy the chairs, leave them here? We'll use them year round and they'll be here when you come to the tournament. And they were like, oh, great idea. And all of a sudden, I had 25 basketball chairs and I had none before. So you kind of have to be very creative in
Yeah.
how you do things because the program budget, I had 2 senior divisions, and my program budget was $1,000 for the year for 2 facilities. You can't do nothing with that.
Yeah.
It's like, have a party. Okay, we're done for the year. It's like
Right.
you're finished. So you just have to be very creative in figuring out where to find that money and who to partner with to do it.
Would you say like with the Parks and Rec field, like would that be the biggest challenge in the role? Would be like budgeting and things like that?
Yeah,
It
most
can be.
definitely.
It
And
definitely
it
sounds like it.
depends. It depends on the community you're in too. I mean, we as Parks and Rec professionals have to be super resourceful. I mean, because again, like I've always said that, the ideas that we have and the programs we want to do are all great ideas, and we're never gonna not dream big. And even if the budget doesn't support it, that doesn't mean the ideas go away. They're still there, and there's still opportunities for us to, reach the community, which is our ultimate goal, and like serve the people and that live where we work. So even if the budget doesn't back it up, we still got to find a way to do it. So we're really, I think every Parks and Rec professional is pretty resourceful, and being able to offer what they do, even if the money's not there. But I also think, it again, it depends on where you're at. I'm fortunate that the people here in Bowling Green, like our elected officials and our city manager and the people on senior management, outside of just, of course, our director, value parks and they value recreation. And so they support what we do. And so in budget time, doesn't mean we're always going to get a yes, but we're in a much better place, than colleagues I have that work in other communities where they're fighting tooth and nail to convince their elected officials to support what they're doing. And so it's really all about, again, your community's priorities and where they lie. Because if they lie with Parks and Rec, then it's always going to be a challenge in the sense that like you might have to think outside the box, but it won't be a challenge in the sense that you don't get support for
Right.
what you're doing. But
And the reality is too, bigger cities, you're competing with more people. I mean, yeah, everybody knows that fire, police, EMS, that's super important. We need that. You can't take away from that. So you find ways to even work with those guys because Louisville has like a horrible crime rate. Homicides are terrible. And like everybody's solution is let's do midnight basketball. Well, that doesn't solve everything. That's not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
that doesn't solve anything. But what could we do working with the police if they're getting more money? How can we work with the police department to increase some programs? And it's as simple as like donuts with the cop and that kind of stuff, where they can pay for a lot of this stuff, but get the community involved. And then it's a win win for them because people are getting to know the police in their area in a non threatening, friendly way. And you're able to serve the community. So it's knowing who kind of gets those pots of money because, yeah, if you need an increase because of homicides are bad, you need more police officers, you need more EMS. Parks and Rec is low on that totem pole. So how can we work with them and together? And it's always thinking about that. But yeah, budgeting is huge.
No, that's a great way to wrap. That's amazing. Because I mean, in my head, I would like obviously it's the community. Like you're not gonna not like people if you're working in a community-based like job, but I didn't realize how much budgeting would go into that. Do
And you
you
know what? That most people don't. And it's like for those people, like there's some people that will major like in parks and they might minor like in finance or something. And it's like, okay, you're smart, even if you took a
Yeah.
couple of classes. Because a lot of people, like even like some of my staff, it was like, okay, we're going to do this program planning form. You've got to plan out your program. What's your budget? And they're like, what do you mean, what's your budget? I just tell you what I need and you get it. And
Did
I'm like, that
you
money doesn't just come from
did you
nowhere.
have to take a fiscal management class as part of your sport management?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
So
great.
that our degree at WKU had one as well. So we learned budgeting and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's I didn't like I don't
And it
know.
is very practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my husband, he hasn't taken anything like that and he's doing business finance. Like he
Okay.
didn't do anything like that's technically that
Yeah.
exactly. But do you think like with budgeting and everything, that obviously has to be one of the most essential qualities like of Parks and Rec and being in that field, whether it be like lower or higher up when it comes to leadership and things like that?
Yeah, and I think you're always learning. Last spring was the first time I ever, our that I as a manager had to sit there and kind of be a part of our director and administrative manager's presentation to the budget team. So that was a good experience for me because I'd never done that. So I mean, as you go through the years of your career, you're always going to learn new aspects of it.
Right.
But from the very beginning, even an entry level position is going to have full time is going to have some supervisory responsibility over a program and will need to understand, the budget that goes into it. They might not be making the budget, but they may be helping influence the budget. And so from the very beginning, understanding costs and understanding how to take $50 and make a program out of it, or, well, we want to start this new program, but there's no money for it. How are you going to do it? Well, we'll figure it out.
Right.
So yeah, understanding how to be resourceful, I think is extremely important from the very beginning.
Well, I always worked with my staff because they would want to do a program, and I had like a program planning form that they did, and then they never knew what to do with like the budget part for supplies. Okay, if you're doing a painting class, you've got to buy the paint, the brushes. You might have some there already. That's not going to be a cost, but look at what it's going to cost you to do that program, and you want 20 people there, so it's going to cost you how much a person to break even. And they're like, I don't know. And it's like, but you've got entry level, you've got to know that when you're offering a program because your goal is not necessarily to make money, but your goal is definitely not to lose money. So
Right.
if you're spending $8 in supplies and you're charging $2 a person, that's not going to work very often. And sometimes, yes, you can do that because another program might make a little bit of money. And if this is a group that just really needs the project and you're going to lose some money on it, then that's okay. But you need to figure out what you've got to put out to do that program. And it might be that instead of 10 people you're going to do it for, you need to do it for 20 so you can break even. And a lot of the staff that worked for me were like, well, I don't know how to do that. It's like, well, okay, let's learn it
Yeah.
because your goal needs to be how can we try to break even with this program? Because as I said, when you've got $1,000 for two centers for 1 year, that's not going very far. So you've got to figure out how to do that. So budgeting is important for everybody. And then if you learn it at that entry level, if you want to move up, you're going to go from planning a painting class budget to planning a playground and how to afford to do that. So you've got to learn that from the beginning.
My thing might cut us off in a minute. I don't know if it'll let me restart like another meeting or what.
It,
Do
yeah,
you
I'm not, it probably should, I would
I think
think.
I don't know if it's like 40 minutes a day, like how some subscription things are. So if it does cut us off, how would we like to? I only have a couple more questions, but would we like to move either to like phone call with that group or
Do you want me to try to make one real quick?
yeah, that works. I just don't wanna I don't
I
wanna
don't
do
know how to
it.
record it. If you make it, because I can even set it up through a Zoom too.
I got it.
Cameron's
How
technology.
how long do you have until it cuts us off?
It says 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
I can try to make it real quick. I'll put it in the chat, the
That
link, and
works.
we'll just
Oh,
jump to that.
Lord. Cameron,
What?
I'm not technology.
Oh, chill. All right, here, watch.
Just put me on there.
Okay, y'all see that link?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just click that, and I'm gonna go start it.
Okay.